Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Wellness Toolkit. I am your co host, Vivian Hermiz, along with my friend and colleague, Frank Baird. Hi, Frank. I want to welcome you all to tonight's session. And as we always do, we'll start with a brief introduction into this toolkit and then dive into a practice and then follow it up with a little talk that kind of links it all together.
So, the theme this month is awe. And so let's start with an awesome practice. We're going to just sound like Bill and Ted all night. We're going to start with an awesome practice. So get comfortable. Your eyes can be open or closed. And if you're new to this practice, all you have to do is get as comfortable as you can for now. Listen to my voice. I'll be providing some suggestions, some guidance. Just notice what happens. You hear my voice, and then just notice what happens. And as best you can, make a gentle, friendly effort to be with whatever's happening. And if you can, I would suggest, can you be curious about whatever's happening? So often we spend, like most of our time, knowing things or feeling like we should know things, or in some cases, I think this is the worst, believing we know some things. And I'll talk a little bit about this later, but the knowing often squashes the curiosity, and the curiosity is a really helpful ingredient for either cultivating or discovering awe. So, also, if you need to stop at any time or you want to stop at any time, do. Trust your needs around this. You'll have access to this video. You can come back and do this practice later, or you can just do the practice anytime. So stop if you need to or if you want to. And with that said, let's practice. So one of the ways I like to ease into a practice is to tell myself I'm about to practice. My brain is busy going, I'm going to do this. I'm imagining doing this. I'm getting ready to get ready to do this. And I like to start by letting my body know I'm actually doing it now. I'm not just thinking about it. And one way of doing that is to take a slow, deep breath. Breathing in fully. And then whenever you're ready, breathing out slowly and fully. This breath is not just the announcement I'm starting to practice. This breath is the first part of the practice. Sometimes at the beginning of a practice, I like to check in with my body. Notice if there are any places that feel tight or tense. And if there are, can I make a gentle, friendly effort to let go of as much of that as I can? I may not be able to let go of all of it. I may not be able to let go of as much as I hope to. But the first part of this practice is checking in, noticing the state of my body. And adjusting it slightly to be more conducive to practice. So letting go of as much tension or tightness as you can. And you might notice how the body breathes on its own. You don't have to make it breathe. And for this practice, you don't have to breathe in any particular way. Bring attention to breathing and just feel it happening. You can use breathing as a place to rest attention. When the mind is busy going all over the place, thinking about this or that, or trying to convince you that you need to pay attention to this or that, you can bring attention to breathing and use it as an attention anchor. A place to rest attention, a place to return attention, a place to try to focus again and again. So I'm being careful not to strive or struggle with attention, but when you notice that it's been pulled away, that it wandered off, acknowledge, oh yeah, it got pulled away, it wandered off. And then gently bring it back to feeling breathing happening. Feeling this particular breath happening right now. Not imagining breathing, not remembering breathing, really feeling this breath as it's happening right now. It's inevitable that attention will move. Maybe it'll move to a different place where you're feeling breathing happening. Or maybe it'll move to some other place entirely. It's inevitable. So if you can, try not to have an attitude about it. Not be disappointed, not be judging your effort or your practice. Notice where your attention is and gently bring it back to breathing. Just for now, can you make a friendly, gentle effort to let things be just the way they are? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Whether you can or can't isn't as valuable as the friendly effort, noticing. Can I let the thoughts that are happening be what they are? Can I let the feelings that are happening be what they are? Can I let the physical sensations that are happening right now be as they are? They might be pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. This isn't about whether you like them or not. It isn't about condoning them. It's about noticing, can I just let them be just for a moment? Fraction of a second, 30 seconds, however long, can I just let it be? And I don't know if you know this, but there's not a once and for all answer to that question. Because maybe I did. Maybe I was able to go, yeah, everything's okay. I can let it be just the way it is for a second, and then in the next second, something happens. I hear a sound, a thought comes up, an emotion happens, and I notice I'm all activated and involved. Here in this practice, the invitation would be, if you notice you got all activated and involved, can you let that go? Again, maybe you can, maybe you can't. One of the most successful ways of being at ease in any given moment is being able to let it be the way it is, separate from our judgments, separate from whether we like it or don't like it. It's possible, even in the presence of something unpleasant, to be relatively at ease. The ease that's available in the presence of something unpleasant will be different than the ease that's available in the presence of something pleasant or something neutral. So if in these practices you're hoping to experience some ease, make a friendly, gentle effort to let this moment be just the way it is. Part of this gentle, friendly effort is to let you be just the way you are right now. You might have attitude about you or what you're doing or how you're doing, or judgments or wishes or longings. For now, just for part of this practice, can you let go of any of that and let you be you, just the way you are right now? As best you can, letting the moment be just the way it is, letting you be just the way you are in this moment. Again, maybe you can do this more or less, maybe you can't. Making a friendly, gentle effort, it's an exploration. And part of this exploration is to the extent that I can let the moment be the way it is, to the extent I can let me be the way I am in this moment, to the extent I can let things be, I don't have to do anything. I don't have to do anything about it. I don't have to change it. I don't have to sustain it. I'll still register if it's pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Can I let that be? I recognize the feeling tone of pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And any effort that I'm making is to let things be, not to improve them, change them. Let them be. And whenever you notice you start thinking about this effort too much, whatever is too much for you, or you start thinking about other things, you get lost, you wander off, you get pulled away, you can always bring attention back to breathing, settling attention once again on just this breath. Here's the thing about this breath, not the breath that just happened or the next breath that's about to happen. This breath can be kind of boring to pay attention to, especially if we're not really paying attention, we're not really feeling it, or we're thinking about it, or we're judging it, or imagining a breath happening at the same time that we're feeling this breath happen. If you notice any of that happening, can you let go of that? Redirect attention back to feeling this breath. This breath will only be boring if you want it or need it to be anything other than what it is. Still may not be interesting, but it won't be boring. And then you might try this. Can you be really curious about this breath? How it's happening, where it's happening? Are the sensations your attention is on right now, are they at the tip of the nose? Or at the back of the throat? Or are you feeling the lungs fill up or empty? This moment, not remembering the last, not anticipating the next, not imagining. This breath. I invite you to consider this thought briefly and then bring attention back to breathing. But one of the things that make it possible to more likely to experience awe, or even to cultivate the conditions where awe can arise, is newness. You may recall or imagine as a baby, all we had to do was cry for food, and we got it, and then poop. That was the life. And everything was new. And there was an abundance of awe, at least for a while, depending on the childhood you had, depending on life circumstances. But newness, not judginess, not knowing. Newness. And every moment is new. This breath may be similar to another, but the more high resolution my attention, the more difference I'll notice. And then something that's possible with curiosity is this breath becomes more interesting, more pleasant. And sometimes awe is available even for something so ordinary, so reliable, so abundant that we can take it for granted. This breath happening right now. Just feeling it. And if attention wanders off or gets pulled away, gently bringing it back. Here's another thought you might consider briefly. The body breathes on its own, and so we can take it for granted. But so much is involved in creating the body, sustaining the body, coordinating the body. There's a huge system here. This thing that I take for granted and sometimes disparage because it gets old or it gets tired or it doesn't do the things I want it to do at all or as quickly or as easily as I'd like. Even so, I couldn't design this system and keep track of it. If I had to remember to breathe, I wouldn't. But the body does that. So, separate from trying to figure it out, how does the body do that? Can you be curious? Curious about what it takes for this organism, this body that's me or mine, that I live in. How does that even happen? All that is going into making it possible for this breath to be happening. For me to be aware of this breath happening. I don't even know how it happens. And I'm glad I don't need to know. But isn't it amazing? Isn't it awesome? All the interrelatedness that it takes for the oxygen to be produced in this world and come to me and go into my nose and fill my lungs and sustain my life. And for me to breathe out a life-giving force to plants. All this is happening in this breath. Before, during, and after. And then again, and again, and again. Just breathing. As we approach the end of our practice for tonight, not the end of breathing, but the end of our practice. If you'd like, if it's fitting for you, you might express some appreciation to yourself for engaging in this practice, for giving it the effort that you gave it. Sometimes I like to express gratitude and appreciation for breathing. Even though it happens on its own, I'm really glad it happens. And I'm glad it happens on its own. So if you'd like to express some appreciation to yourself, you might use words either out loud or in your head, like, thank you for your attention. Thank you for your practice. Or I appreciate your time. Or just thank you. Thank you. And to conclude our practice, if your eyes are closed, you might open them, move them around. You might move your head around, stretch, maybe shrug your shoulders, wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, yawn if you'd like. And this will conclude our practice. Thank you for your practice. Now we have some time for a brief talk about awe, an awesome talk about awe, some questions, answers, some explorations. So I want to say a little bit about awe. So awe is an experience we have when we encounter things that are vast and large and that transcend our current understanding of the world. Right? So I don't know about you, but like that definition can be a bit intimidating, right? I think of like awe. I remember when I was young and a new album by my favorite artist would come out, and I would feel like awe that it was possible, that it existed. And as I become older, a lot less of that. But every once in a while, like Peter Gabriel's releasing some new tunes, and I have that experience of awe. So it really involves this sort of I think collection of stimuli that really feels like we are in a world that is amazing, that our existence is amazing. And awe can be for a moment, a fraction of a second, or it can be longer, depending. Pro, pro, I'm not sure I spelled his name right, Protagoras. He's a Greek philosopher, which means, if the Greeks said it, it must be true, or at least old and familiar. Anyway, he said awe is our defining strength. It's the engine of creativity, discovery, purpose, and health. And I'll say a little bit about how awe positively impacts our health. They've done research around awe, and what they found is that it can lead folks to being more altruistic, to feel less entitled, to feel more humble, which I often think of as like the flip side of being entitled, and to be more aware of strengths of others, which is interesting, right? It's not just more aware of others, but of their strengths. And I think that's because part of what can happen with awe is this vastness, this bigness. Part of what comes with it is a sense of interconnectivity. Or I don't know if it comes with it or if it's a part of it. I'm not sure the relationship of the words there, but it's the vastness and the interconnectivity of us and things and other beings. They're also finding that awe is good for the immune system. They say it stirs scientific thought. So I think of scientific thought as curiosity, right? There are two parts to mindfulness that we cultivate with practice. One is clear perception, right? More accurate view of what's happening, right? By being able to distinguish between the phenomena that's happening and our story or our judgment about what's happening. And that then curiosity is a part of science, right? Curiosity is one of those things that's like, I wonder if, and then we go explore it. I wonder if asparagus really is awful, or let me go find out. And I use asparagus as an example because when I was growing up, I hated asparagus. It turns out because my mom bought canned asparagus. I don't know if you've ever had canned asparagus. It's soggy and wet and it wasn't appetizing. But as an adult, when I discovered fresh asparagus, love it. So, right, there's this interconnection to a bigger world with curiosity. And here's how curiosity facilitates this. It's what is the phenomena that's happening, right? What is this, the phenomena that's happening? And then I like this. Can I delight in the discovery of what it is? So many of us are constrained by a need to know things, right? Which is different than being curious about things. Curiosity to know things is different than curiosity to keep learning about things. Now, they're not mutually exclusive, but I think so often the knowing ends the curiosity. I don't have to be curious anymore because I know the thing. And then so many of the things we know, it's like because we feel like we're going to get in trouble for it, or I'll be judged as stupid if I don't know this. That's so different than going, yeah, this breath, I may worry that I sound stupid trying to talk to somebody about it. Not me, because I do it all the time. But right, it's like, try telling somebody, it's really nice breathing right now. I mean, you can do it like right after COVID or a cold or the flu, right? Because people get that it was bad, then it was better. But just, out of the blue going, hi, what's going on right now? I'm really enjoying breathing, right? But that delight that can come in this thing that is ordinary, because there's an abundance of ordinary things. So one of the things I think about curiosity is, can I delight in letting go of my story about it? Can I delight in being curious instead of just knowing or needing to know? And for me, I find some delight in going like, can I, this is the scientific part, scientific inquiry. Can I be wrong? I'm willing to be wrong. The story I have about something, the meaning I've made around something, is that the only available meaning? It might be the meaning I'm most familiar with, or the meaning that was constructed under circumstances. But there's delight in discovery and rediscovery. And then another place where delight can happen is in my mindful efforts. Right? That's especially nice because sometimes we're afraid to be curious, especially about ourselves, because we worry we're going to discover something awful. Like I worry that I'm a bad person, and if I spend too much time exploring, maybe I'll confirm that I'm a bad person. I would like to argue, so this is a totally biased position on my part, but I would argue that we're not bad people. Bad people don't worry about being bad. So if you're worried about being a bad person, right, then explore. The other thing is this: if I worry that I'm going to find some quality or characteristic about me that is unpleasant, if I want to be a better person, whatever better means for me, it's going to help to know that, because that will be something I'll want to work on to change. If I just hide from it, if I just, you're familiar with this phrase, put it in the closet, eventually the closet door is going to open and it's all going to fall out on me anyway. So can I delight in the effort to be curious? Can I delight in, I don't know if you'd say it's an identity, but to take up the identity of curiosity? So I want to, oops, I'm just going to hop around now on the slides. So a couple of things. One is I want to take a look at the questions and consider some. One of the things we would invite you to do this week to cultivate or discover awe is periodically throughout the day pause and try one of these two practices. One is evoke curiosity about the history of something in your environment. So what I think about is this. I used to really, I playfully say I'm a recovering existentialist. I felt like I was alone in the universe. And then I noticed, I'm saying that in my apartment, and everything in my apartment was human made. So like right now, right, my desk is right in front of me. Can I be curious about my desk? Right? Again, good luck talking to your friends about this and not having them go, "Are you okay?" I'd say I'm going to be more okay if I pursue this, right? So this desk is in my office. I put together the desk. So where did the desk come from? Well, all things come from Amazon.com. But like, where did it get manufactured? Well, apparently all things are manufactured in China. So then where did the wood come from that they used to put together the desk? Or where did the screws come from that hold the desk together? And then who made the screws, or who cut the wood, or who grew the wood, or, right, the history of a thing, the vastness of this thing. Like, I think about what we know about foods that are poisonous, like don't eat this. And I go like, how long have we known that? And like, how many people had to suffer poison before we learned and convinced enough people not to eat that thing, right? There's a lot of knowledge and circulation in history that wasn't always there. And so pausing and just considering the history of a thing that you take for granted. How did it get there? Where did it come from? Who was involved? The other thing you can do is evoke curiosity about the phenomena happening to you in the moment. Just like we did in this practice, considering breathing. It'd be, let me focus my attention on a physical sensation. So that can be seeing, hearing, smelling, touching, tasting. And can I notice the thoughts and the feelings about it and let them go, or at least loosen them, and marvel in the direct experience of this thing that mostly I don't. Mostly I just take it for granted. So those are some invitations. Let's take a look at some of your questions. Did any stand out for you, Vivian?
Well, I want to point something out that, and it kind of links with one of the comments inside the chat, and that there's so just when I was a big know-it-all in my teenagers, as many of us teenagers tend to be, and once I got to university, I started, I realized there were so many things I didn't know. So the first time I said I don't know to something, I felt very vulnerable because it's a very it is a humbling moment, and to open up to that vastness, there's two things that can happen. You can meet it with like merge into it and become a part of the vastness, or you can be overwhelmed by the vastness. Does that make sense? Of awe. The cool thing about when you experience awe, you're not given a choice. By virtue of the experience of awe, you become one with it. You're not given the and that's what I love about this experience. But to the point, somebody wrote that I inquire most of the time because of the fear of the unknown, and there's so many unknowns. Invoking curiosity can lead to triggers, and I find myself down several rabbit holes. So I see this person is actually like chasing down, trying to make sense of it in their pursuit of trying to gather all the possibilities of how to answer the unknowns.
Yeah, I think of that as trying to figure it out. Right. So there are two questions that I can get a headache from and panic. One is what happens after we die to us, right? Not whatever the world is. And the other is how big is the universe? And I go, well, apparently I don't have whatever it takes to figure that out. But I can really be awe-inspired to sit at night and look up at all the stars if I'm away from the city so that the stars can be seen, right? So the idea here would be if you're getting triggered, probably one of the things that are happening, so don't necessarily practice curiosity right there. But the other thing that's happening is there are these thoughts coming in and this judgment that I have to figure this out. I can't be okay until I figure this out. And I think one of the nice things about awe is I don't have to figure anything out. I'm just like basking in the not knowing.
Yeah.
I think of it like, I don't know how many people watched the TV show Lost. I loved it. It was just all this weird stuff happening, and I was just going like, it was awesome because of all the weird stuff happening. And then it was so disappointing in the last episode when they allegedly answered the question. And I just go, please don't answer anything in these shows. That what's awesome is the bigness, the vastness of it.
And I love what you shared about the delighting in the possibility of opening up to all the possibilities, like not having to answer the question. So going back to the first couple of times I said I don't know, I felt very vulnerable and humble and weird because that was not my nature to do. And then going around telling everybody I don't know, I just started doing it all the time. Even if I had I had an inkling of what is the truth, I would just say I don't know because I wasn't sure. And so it became really freeing. That's the other side. So it can.
Well, one of the comments, right? I love this comment. My awesome AM ritual is brewing coffee on the stove, hearing the percolating coffee, smelling the aroma, watching the color change, feeling the warm mug, tasting the delicious flavor. This was my awesome AM ritual. And right, what I like about that is in some ways you could say there's not curiosity, right? It's the familiarity. But I think the way I relate to that with curiosity is, and it's happening now. Again, right now, that is not a memory or an anticipation. I mean, there may be some both going on at the same time, but like I'm hearing this sound right now. I'm smelling this aroma right now. And like that thing that I think, I don't know if babies actually experience this. It's a story we have about babies, but it's like, I've never seen this before, right? Like it really is a what is this? What is this? What is this? And the delight is this.
And you,
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
becomes anew. Like you may have experienced it many times before, but if you're experiencing it in the moment, you're experiencing it, you're deep in the sensations of it, how it's coming through your senses. You're experiencing it anew.
There's a question here. I'm aware we're almost out of time. A YouTube video pop up in my feed that was on sugar and said it just like ingesting poison. My goal then to avoid sugar, and that's almost impossible. Then I had to figure out why I can't give up sugar. So one is YouTube is evil, and it's great, and it's great, right? But I think one of the things that happens is, especially with YouTube or like these brief bursts of information, is they're always presented like you need to know this. Like they're prepackaged with judgment. It's not like we invite you to consider this. It's like I'm going to tell you what's wrong with what you've been doing and why you need to do this thing that I happen to be selling you, right? And so in some ways, right, awe is available, like for me, around what I think of as insidious advertising. I'm in awe of how effective it is. I'm also frightened and like really disturbed by it. But the awe is there because I'm going, oh, look at what they're doing. It's not just the effect, right? Like that I got triggered into something. This is the delight and the mindful awareness and the insight from mindful awareness is like, oh, look what they managed to do to me, except I'm observing it, which means they're not really getting away with it the way they might have done in the past. And that's a really hopeful observation or experience.